In 1989, Iowa's countryside was dotted with more than 300 local seed companies. Today, just 100 remain. They were wiped out by a surge of mergers, buyouts, and brand eliminations that culled 2/3 of the market and left family names erased. The world's agricultural giants now dictate what 85,000 Iowa farms can plant and how much they pay. How did this collapse happen so quickly? And what does it mean when every single choice, and the last hope for independent farming, hangs by a thread? The numbers tell a story of relentless decline. In 1989, Iowa counted more than 300 independent seed companies. These were local firms, often run by families who knew the land and their neighbors' fields by heart. By 2004, that number had already dropped to 200. Today, only about 100 remain. Over 200 companies have vanished from the map since the early 1990s, acquired, merged, or simply shuttered. Each closure meant the loss of a local name, a trusted dealer, and a source of seeds adapted to Iowa's unpredictable weather and soil. The Independent Professional Seed Association, formed as a coalition for these companies, saw its membership shrink by 2/3 in one generation. For many communities, the disappearance was sudden. A familiar sign taken down, a warehouse emptied, a phone line disconnected. In some towns, the last independent seed dealer closed its doors, leaving farmers to choose from only a handful of corporate options. Behind each exit stood mounting pressures, rising costs for access to patented genetics, shrinking margins, and the growing dominance of multinational firms. The pace of loss is accelerating. Where once there were hundreds of choices, now only a fraction survive. The numbers are not just statistics. They represent hundreds of family businesses, thousands of local jobs, and decades of regional knowledge erased. What began as a slow trickle in the 1990s became a flood. Over 200 Iowa seed companies have disappeared in a single generation. The scale of this loss is unprecedented for any American farm sector. The result is a landscape where independence is no longer the norm, but the exception, and the future of local seed in Iowa looks more uncertain than ever. One by one, the names that once defined Iowa's seed industry have disappeared from the market, swept up in a series of corporate deals that reshaped American agriculture. In the 1990s, Monsanto began acquiring smaller seed firms, using its growing portfolio of patented traits to build consolidation and dominance in the market. The pace of consolidation accelerated at the turn of the century. In 1999, DuPont completed its takeover of Pioneer Hybrid, buying the 80% it did not already own in a stock deal valued at about $5.4 billion. With that transaction, DuPont's total investment in Pioneer reached roughly $7 billion, and Iowa's 90-year-old seed icon became a division of a global chemical company. The takeover marked a turning point. The mergers only grew larger. In 2016, Dow Chemical and DuPont announced a $130 billion merger, combining their agricultural divisions and ultimately forming Corteva AgReliant. That same year, ChemChina purchased Syngenta for $43 billion, and Bayer moved to acquire Monsanto in a deal valued at $66 billion. By 2018, the Bayer-Monsanto merger was complete, and what had once been 6 major players in the seed business was reduced to 4: Bayer, Corteva, Syngenta, and AgReliant. Corporate restructuring did not stop at the top. In 2018, AgReliant consolidated 6 of its regional brands into LG Seeds, erasing familiar names from the Midwest. But the most sweeping cull came from Bayer in 2025. That year, Bayer eliminated 10 regional family brands: Fontanelle, Gold Country Seed, Hubner Seed, Jung Seed Genetics, Kruger Seeds, Lewis Hybrids, Rhea hybrids, specialty seed, Stewart Seeds, and stone seed. Many had been fixtures in their states for generations, some dating back more than a century. Bayer said this was about efficiency, folding these brands into the channel line to streamline operations and focus on dealer relationships. For Iowa, the loss of Kruger Seeds and other names meant the end of local legacies and a further narrowing of real choice. Each acquisition and brand retirement carried its own logic, cost savings, synergy, and global reach, but the outcome was unmistakable. Corporate control, concentrated in fewer hands, and the roster of independent seed companies shrank with every deal. The story of Iowa's seed industry became a timeline of mergers, buyouts, and vanished brands, each step moving the state further from the era when local names lined every rural road. 4 companies now dominate Iowa's seed market. Bayer, Corteva, Syngenta, and AgReliant together control more than 83% of all corn seed sales and over 78% of soybean seed sales across the United States. For Iowa's 85,000 farms, this means nearly every acre planted starts with a seed from one of these giants. As the number of independent companies dwindled, the price of seed soared. In 2006, Iowa farmers paid around $51 per acre for corn seed. By 2015, that number had doubled to $102 per acre. Today, a single bag of seed corn lists for more than $300 a bag. The cost of planting a crop has exploded, not just for seed, but for everything that comes bundled with it, chemicals and fertilizer. Iowa State University reports that over the last 20 years, the combined cost of seed, chemicals, and fertilizer has jumped by 94%. Input costs that once seemed manageable now threaten the survival of family farms. Senator Chuck Grassley, who has farmed in Iowa for decades, puts it in stark terms. When he first started, a bag of seed corn cost well under $20. Now that same bag is priced at $300 or more. For many farmers, the math no longer adds up. The rise in prices has not come with more choice or better service. Instead, it's the product of a market where competition has all but vanished. With the Big Four holding nearly all the cards, farmers are left with few alternatives and little bargaining power. The story told by the numbers is one of consolidation and control, where the cost of doing business keeps rising and the options keep shrinking. Noah Koppas, a 5th-generation Iowa farmer, opens his seed catalog and finds the same handful of choices year after year. For 5 seasons running, he has planted the identical soybean variety, not because it fits his land best, but because there are no alternatives left. The local seed dealer who once knew his fields by name is gone, replaced by a corporate call center hundreds of miles away. Fertilizer costs have climbed so high that Noah can only afford to spread the bare minimum, sometimes watching his margins slip below zero. Even fields that do not use certain seed technologies are hit with usage fees, written into contract fine print that leaves no room to negotiate. Across Iowa, the rules have changed. Seed saving, a practice as old as farming itself, has vanished under a web of patents and licensing agreements. Contracts now ban seed saving outright. Bundled deals require farmers to buy patented seeds and the matching herbicides from the same company, year after year. Switching suppliers means losing rebates, facing penalties, or being locked out of the latest genetics. The Big Four control the traits and the terms, and for most independents, the cost of access is too high to survive. Senator Cory Booker says it plainly: when you control the seeds, you control the food system. Todd Martin, head of the Independent Professional Seed Association, warns that unless something changes, fewer than 40 independent seed companies will remain in 5 years. The survivors, names like Beck's, Stein, and Weifels, hang on by specializing, but the rest are disappearing fast. Promises of jobs and innovation have not matched the reality. Bayer alone has cut 12,000 positions since its Monsanto merger. Lobbying by Monsanto and Bayer has topped $100 million over the last decade, shaping the rules in Washington, while Iowa farmers lose control of the land's most basic resource. The collapse is not just economic, but personal. A system where the farmer's independence, once taken for granted, is now slipping out of reach. 4 corporations now decide what Iowa's 85,000 farms can plant and what families eat. As local knowledge vanishes and seed prices soar, the first link in our food chain slips out of public hands. The future of farming and food itself hangs in that balance. Share your thoughts below.